Did the supplement industry overcome the near insurmountable challenges that the COVID-19 effect threw at it? Now that we just have entered early Q4 of 2020, thought it was a good time to recap the biggest thing that happened in the supplement industry, obviously the COVID-19 effect. And the COVID-19 effect will no doubt have impacts on every aspect of the supplement industry for years to come. It created health concerns that were to the highest level that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. It created economic hardships to levels that haven't been seen since the Great Depression. And if you're looking at this socioeconomic setup, it does not look very appealing to an entrepreneur. That is, unless you operate within the supplement industry. Could all of this bad actually be good for the supplement industry? On the one hand, the COVID-19 effect has created a historic year for consumer acceptance of supplements, as many turn to the industry for help in supporting general and immune health or relief with stress, anxiety, and sleep problems. And then on the other hand, a lot of the supplement industry subcategories would actually be considered more in line with consumer discretionary over consumer staples. And you have to think that an elongated economic hardship, recessionary type of a period might create some issues with a lot of those categories. The short and long term of health and economic perspectives of the COVID-19 effect can create a number of different outcomes that could present itself within the supplement industry. To optimize the insights for this video, what I'm going to end up doing is zooming out and looking really at the macro environment of the supplement industry, and then I'm going to be zooming in on specific subcategories that the COVID-19 effect had created some different kind of winning and losing opportunities. So just looking at the macro aspect of the COVID-19 effect in relation to the supplement industry, I believe this was the defining moment for the supplement industry, as a ton of consumers really looked at the industry and looked at preventative health in a much different way. And because of that, they began new and also expanded a lot of their supplement regimens. And we're talking about a US adult population that about 80% of them take one type of a supplement or another. And the Council of Responsible Nutrition actually did a recent survey a couple of months ago around supplement use in the wake of the pandemic. And they actually found that 91% of US adults they surveyed did increase their supplement usage, and 46 of them actually added new supplements to the regimen. So a lot of really good trends for the supplement industry. And I think that finding optimal health is not necessarily some type of fleeting trend. This is a long-term secular trend that's really driving the supplement industry and has driven the supplement industry for the last several decades. And this is even considering the last recession, elongated recession that we had during the Great Recession that didn't seem to phase the supplement industry. That being said, the differences between the Great Recession and the recession we're dealing with now that's tied to a global health pandemic is that there was a governmental imposed restricted living that created a ton of issues with, like, if we blend out the whole supplement industry, but different subcategories were definitely negatively affected by some of those decisions. It's important for us to kind of talk about the splinter between the supplement industry and then the sports nutrition industry. The general supplement industry was not materially affected by any of the imposed shutdowns or restricted living situations, because most of those things are tied to like general health and wellness and not necessarily a specific use occasion that is tied to maybe something like mobility. And because of that, the overall supplement industry had an amazing year. They actually are projected to double their growth rate from 2019, which was somewhere around 6%, up to a projected 12%. And the Nutrition Business Journal actually said this is going to be the largest growth rate that the supplement industry has had in the last 20 years. Now, with kind of numbers and accolades like that, you might get a little bit overly confident and think this is going to continue in the future. I predict, and most other analysts are predicting, that this number will be above that 6% that they saw in 2019. I think there's still going to be a sustained importance with supplements because of COVID-19. Definitely going to be an important tailwind in early 2021. But I would expect that number to be somewhere around probably 7 to 8% on the high end. That is, unless something else happens with the environment, with the virus, or some similar type of maybe second wave. Now, alternatively, the sports nutrition industry did see a lot of pressure that was put on them because of some of those government-imposed restricted living type situations that are still in some areas of the United States happening to this day. A lot of sports nutrition usage is around maybe some use occasions that you do within a gym, and a gym might be closed because of some of those government-imposed restrictions, or maybe some use occasion that happens around mobility. A lot of people aren't moving around as much, and because of that, the sports nutrition industry actually saw a deceleration in their growth rate from 2019. That growth rate in 2019 was 6.3%, and the projected number heading into the last quarter of 2020 is somewhere around 5.5%. The good news for sports nutrition, the industry as a whole, was that a lot of the brands were able to quickly pivot and offer a lot of different product categories that wouldn't necessarily be generally considered into the product pipelines of those brands. So a lot of like immune health or general health products were launched by sports nutrition brands. And because of that, a lot of them ended up saving their year and they were still able to eke out some growth. Another point is that the extreme restrictions that the US saw or across the world saw in that March to kind of April phase, I don't believe anybody's going to go back to that level. We've learned a lot about the virus and have a lot more tools in our tool belt now. So I don't think anything's going to get to that level. So that's great news because you're not going to have to deal with any of those negative things that kind of brought a lot of the subcategories within the sports nutrition industry almost to a halt. So I did want to zoom in now and look at some specific subcategories that maybe had a really great year because of the COVID-19 effect or struggled because of the COVID-19 effect. First one that I wanted to talk about was the multivitamin category. Not the most exciting category to talk about, and it has been like relatively flat over the last probably 5 years. Last year it did see some growth that happened, and a lot of that came down to brands and manufacturers starting to really personalize or change multivitamins to go towards certain value propositions or specific target conditions, demographics, things like that. And that helped them grow at, I think, almost 4% last year. But that's nothing like what happened to the $7.5 billion category this year. The multivitamin category projected at 17% growth this year. It's also important to note that multivitamins that did have ingredients that helped immune health or changed some of their marketing around to highlight some of those value propositions, they saw their growth rates projected to almost hit a doubling effect in 2020. Now, rolling into like this cold, flu, and immunity category as a whole, this has really been where the spotlight has been on for the supplement industry. Anybody that pays attention or works within the supplement industry knows this is the hottest value proposition. This is the hottest category, subcategory of products. Everybody's coming out with some type of immune health and some type of product that's helping consumers in this area. The projected growth rate of this category is somewhere around 50% this year, and it will hit over that $5 billion mark. So thinking about a supplement category, 1 out of every $10 is actually going towards this category. And vitamin C as a whole is the biggest kind of ingredient within this category, but there's been a ton of different things that have been linked to this, including some gut health, probiotic type products. In this category of products overall, it has spiked and kind of subsided over the years. It usually is attached to how strong a flu season that is occurring. Over the last couple of years, there has been a lot of extreme flu seasons. So this category has been hot for a while, but obviously the COVID-19 effect exploded this to a totally different level. And because of that, and the consumer psyche really seeing COVID-19 as one of these kind of moments in time where they needed to make some changes in their lifestyle, I think this category of products has an extended runway for that growth. It might not be hitting 50% year-over-year growth, but I think that a lot of consumers are now looking for immune health and a lot of things that maybe are tied to this in products or added to products. And I think that's going to help the category overall. Some of the positives I see for this trend could be more usage of ingredients towards food and beverage formats, and just overall the understanding of how that relates to just overall health. I think as people get more of an understanding of that, I think that definitely is a tailwind for the category. On the opposite side, a major headwind that could happen is really around like, how do you quantify, or how does a consumer really understand, is this working or not? Is there some type of easy metric or something that could be utilized through maybe one of their wearables or anything that they're tracking? Some of their health attributes, can something be kind of correlated together to help consumers understand, are these products working or not? If there isn't, I think that creates pressure on the category. If there is something that can be easily tied together, I think that helps, and definitely an accelerant to the category. Another subcategory that's gotten a lot of attention is around kind of the sleep, relaxation, and stress area. I guess an easy way to look at this is, have you struggled to sleep in 2020? I think a lot of people have been answering that question to yes, be that from stress, be that from changing of their environment or their schedules, or loss of job, or anything that's going on from maybe a health concern. But if you did say that you have been having trouble, you're definitely in the majority. A lot of people are having issues and kind of talking about that and trying to find supplements that could help this condition. While this category of products, sleep, relaxation, stress, is still under $1 billion total category, it has been one of the hottest growing categories over the last couple of years. As a lot of brands increase the education around how important sleep is to overall health, they are also increasing a lot of the awareness of this because a lot of new products are coming out. A lot of larger companies are jumping into the category, so that's helping to validate it. And because of that, in 2020, it's projected to grow at almost double the 2019 rate of 17.4%. So this year, they're projecting it at somewhere around 30% growth. It's also important to kind of mention that CBD kind of gets thrown into this, or does help a lot of the growth rates in this subcategory of supplements, though that might not have helped all that much this year. There's been a lot of pressure overall in the CBD market with pricing and sales around oversupply, also with a lot of retailers not necessarily getting the right okays from the regulatory environment to be able to stock those things. So that's really kind of throttling some of the high expectations that CBD overall, the category, was thought to have in 2020. Now, moving into more like considered like sports nutrition subcategories, talking about weight management, I know a lot of people have been utilizing food as a coping mechanism in 2020 to alleviate some of that stress and anxiety that's come with the COVID-19 effect. A lot of consumers have been thrown into chaos with their schedules. They maybe have not been able to hit the gym like they usually have been. They're really just trying to adapt. And because of that, there's a time where it takes you to create new schedules, create new normals. And it seems like the weight management category, or just that interest in consumers, has definitely kind of subsided this year, and that's created some pressure on the category. On the other hand, if you look at a lot of these large CPG brands, these conglomerates that own a lot of like the salty snacks, sweet snacks type companies, they're doing great, and that's because a lot of the consumers are buying these products in a lot bigger proportion. People are at home a lot more, so the snacking occasions have increased. So if we look at the category of products within the weight management, if we look at more like the pills category, the traditional supplements, that one has really been where the issue has come down from. This year, it's going to see a retraction in the market of around 7%. The last couple of years, it has been relatively flat and a little bit down. So actually, this is just kind of accelerating already a downward trend towards this subcategory of supplements. Weight management meal type supplements, so a lot of things that are more geared towards nutrition programs or diet programs. Those actually did see a little bit of growth this year. So things like keto or maybe gluten-free or other restricted type of diets. And a lot of that comes down to that consumers were in a complete chaos. And because there was kind of a program or a formula in which this is what you follow, a lot of consumers actually reverted to this kind of strict policy to kind of create some semblance of normalcy in their life. They knew they could control something. Kind of similar to why a lot of people bought a ton of toilet paper and stocked up on a lot of things. When the world is kind of crumbling, you try to control the things you can control, even if they seem silly. Looking at a category that's more towards like a food form, you have nutritional bars and also kind of thrown in there like gels. This category of products is highly connected to like consumer mobility and also some use occasions maybe tied towards an event, an activity, or the gym. So a lot of pressure was actually on this category. It did have some positives that got thrown towards it as well. A lot of the issues with stocking of food and high quality proteins. In the early phase of March heading into April, you did see a lot of spikes in those categories of sales, but then it subsided over time as the supply chain of just general food kind of got back in line. People were able to buy the food that you're normally able to buy, and they weren't on the road or traveling at school or going to the gym or competing in races or events. They didn't need to utilize these products as much as they used to. And you could see that with some of the larger publicly traded companies that do sell a lot of these products. So something like a Bellring Brands or a Simply Good Foods company, the last quarter and a half has been pretty pressured for these brands. And the category as a whole in 2020 is predicted to decline at 3%. This is a lot different than 2019, which it grew about 4%. So I think this is kind of a short-term event. This isn't something that's going to continue over time. I think the products as a whole are something that consumers want. They love that portability of the product. It's just that the portability of the product, the value proposition of that really just diminished because people weren't moving around. You also, within that, just similar to like the weight management products, some of the like subcategories within the nutritional bar section were growing. It just kind of depends on what they were attached to. If they were attached to more like specialized or personalized nutrition programs, or really highlighting a certain purchase criteria for a consumer, or they were kind of sold in the majority of certain like sales channels, those did still do well. So it wasn't like the complete category was a wash. It was that overall, just if you net out everything, it is predicted to lose a little bit of its market size in 2020. Similarly to maybe nutrition bars, you have like protein bars, but just talking about protein supplements as a whole, protein is still king, and protein was really kind of leaned on by consumers during the COVID-19 effect because it was a replacement towards a lot of the high quality proteins that they couldn't get maybe from animal proteins because of some of the issues with the supply chain. So a lot of people were choosing to buy more protein supplements. The category is expected to see about a 36% increase in 2020 as a lot of consumers looked at it to stock up and just have a high quality protein source that had a long shelf life that they could have in their pantry to make sure that they were always set and ready to go. Probably one of the most interesting subcategories within the sports nutrition kind of area of the supplement industry would be more like the energy beverages or hydration beverages. A lot of this is considered to be attached to mobility or because of some of the sales channels in which they sell in, but this subcategory of products really kind of shown its power to consumers in that they are really digging the value propositions, and just because maybe use occasions or the way that they got those products through some channels maybe changed, they still wanted the effects of that. They still wanted the functional benefits of that. So they still were looking for energy. They still were trying to hydrate. And because of that, the category of products is expected to have about an 8% growth in 2020. So to end up this video, I did want to talk a little bit around sales channel because I've mentioned it a few times in some of these subcategories and how maybe important that is to just how maybe some individual brands or individual products did extremely well. The most notable sales channel event that happened because of the COVID-19 effect, even though it really didn't happen because of COVID-19, was the Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing of GNC. But what that bankruptcy did do was it kind of brought a lot of what was happening within the supplement industry, the sales channels, the market dynamics, and it really brought it up to the mainstream to make them understand this more. You have effects that are happening across the market, like the dissemination of merchandising across some of the larger channels. These larger channels also further maturing that merchandise. So not only just starting to offer it, but they've offered it, they see that it's selling and they're stocking more of it. You had e-commerce, both on the marketplace and the direct-to-consumer side, really becoming the default shopping behavior because of COVID-19 and kind of the increased value proposition of it being more safe than going out to stores to shop, or some of these kind of stores not being open because of some of the restrictions with businesses during COVID-19. And then specialty retailers overall really struggled to show their value, or continue to struggle to show their value, when they weren't able to do any of this kind of face-to-face interactions to help consumers. It really handcuffed them, and they weren't able to adapt quick enough. And some of these other market dynamics really took advantage of that. But if you think about this as a whole, you think about the supplement industry as a whole, with our backs against the wall and really facing near insurmountable challenges from the COVID-19 effect, the supplement industry showed that massive consumer secular trends can grit their way through any situation. I hope this video provided some perspective, because it's important for anybody that's operating within the supplement industry to take a deep breath and realize just how fortunate most of us have been through this extremely hard-hitting year. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.